Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum. It seems that everything that we talked about before under the Biden administration is now coming true. The job numbers, pretty much probably all the economic numbers that they have been reporting, they're completely fake, phony, and false. The entire U.S. economy was in a recession during the Biden administration. The Biden administration handed off an economy that is a complete and utter disaster. And they were going to use this against Trump. They never expected Trump to implement his parallel economic system. They never thought he'd be able to get it off the ground. They never thought countries would make multiple deals with him. And they thought it was going to produce inflation. And they thought if they were able to keep the rates where they are, the entire economic system would completely and utterly fall apart. Now, if Trump didn't create the parallel economic system, I do believe the Fed was prepared and ready to drop the rates very, very quickly just to destroy the entire system. Because this is what they did back in 2009, actually prior to 2009, 2007. And remember, the recession started in 2007. I do believe we're going to find out that the recession started under the Biden administration, either late 2023 or early 2024. And I think people are going to be very, very shocked that they've been lied to this entire time. And as the job numbers are being revised, actually, not even revised, we shouldn't even call it a revision because the job numbers never really existed. They just made them up. And think about it, the Fed, and we talked about this yesterday, the Fed was just going off these job numbers. I mean, all these individuals that were PhDs, they have tens of thousands of these people making decisions, running the economy, making sure that everything is fine, making sure the numbers match up. But really, is this what they're doing? Remember, their mandate, they have two of them. Number one, make sure the value of the currency doesn't decline. How's that working out? It's 3,000% inflation, which means it has declined. The currency has declined by, 98.7% or maybe almost 99% now? Did they actually uphold part of their mandate? Absolutely not. What about keeping everyone employed? Well, if the job numbers are fake, did they really keep everyone employed? No, they didn't. They haven't been keeping everyone employed for a very long time. So basically, they have failed on both mandates. And now we could see that they were in line with the Biden administration, with the deep state players, to actually bring the economic system down around Trump. This is why Biden, he was very specific when he said this. He said, I'm handing off a very strong economy to Trump. Why would he say that? Because he knew. Maybe he didn't know because, he was losing it. But he said it because they lied about every single statistic. And those behind the scenes knew that the economy was very, very weak. And if they had Biden come out and say it was very strong and Trump inherited the economy and all of a sudden we went into a recession and into a depression, everyone would blame Trump. This is what they tried to do. And it completely and utterly failed. And you could see that Trump, he actually removed those people that were controlling the numbers and replace them with someone that was going to tell the truth. Because again, remember, he is resetting the entire economic system. And we can't have fake numbers. We can't have a fake economy with fake numbers because we're moving into a parallel economic system, which is going to be the people's economy, and we have to base everything on real data. So this is the perfect time, actually, to revamp and remove the central bank players, the deep state players who've been lying to us for a very, very long time. And when you look at the central bank system, it is unsustainable. The country, the world, cannot function under the amount of debt that each country is accumulating, especially here in the United States. Yes, in the beginning, it might seem fine, just like in any household. In the beginning, oh, look, I just got a new credit card. I have a $5,000 credit limit. This is incredible. And you charge up to $5,000. Later on, you get another $5,000 one. You have the first one brought up to $7,500. Then you bring on another $5,000. Before you know it, you're in $50,000 worth of debt. And your household can't function. You're barely scraping by here because you have so much debt. This is the country right now. Actually, when you start to look at the country and you look at how much every household owes. It's around, and it's approximate, $274,000. Can you imagine if you got the bill tomorrow that you owe $274,000? What would people say? Oh, I'm not paying that. Well, this is how much you owe. You want the government to do all these things. This is your bill. You got to pay it. And what's very interesting, and the Kobesi letter put this out, is that the federal debt will reach $150 trillion by 2055. And this is according to CBO's forecast, which means that every household will owe $1.6 million. Think about that for a second. How in the world is this system supposed to work? It's not. It's designed to enslave the people. It's designed not to work. And basically over time, it breaks down. This is why they have to bring us into a new system. They have to wipe out the old system and bring us into a new system. This is what they were preparing for in 2020. This is why they unleashed the virus. And it's not the only reason. But of course, they had to get rid of Trump through cheating. But they were planning on bringing down the economic system and bringing us into their new economic system. That completely and utterly failed. Doesn't mean they're still not going to try. I do believe they will. I do believe that they'll try some type of an event to blame everything on Trump. But as of right now, it seems like Trump, every step of the way, he has the leverage and he's trapping the Federal Reserve. He's trapping the fake news. He's trapping the economists. He's trapping the deep state players in everything. So remember, before Trump came into office, or right before he came into office, they revised the number saying Biden really never created almost 1 million jobs. Actually, that was just completely and utterly fake. And I think the number was around 818,000 jobs, and that was removed. Now, they just removed 911,000 jobs from April 2024 to March 2025. These numbers are fake. These jobs never existed. Think about that for a second. And the BLS commissioner, those people that worked at the BLS, they were lying every step of the way. The Kobesi letter on X put this out and said, the U.S. Labor Department just revised minus 911,000 jobs out of 12 months of already reported data, the largest revision in history. This is officially above 2009 levels with job data overstated by 76,000 per month. What's next? Let us explain. Here's the data itself. We are seeing large revisions in consumer-oriented categories. This includes negative 176,000 jobs in leisure and hospitality, negative 226,000 jobs in trade, transportation, and utilities. Total private hiring was overstated by a massive negative 880,000 jobs. This now marks the largest revision in history, even above 2009 levels. In 2009, the U.S. revised negative 902,000 jobs out of 12 months of already reported data. We are now seeing revisions that are larger than the largest financial crisis outside the U.S. Great Depression. Last month, the U.S. revised negative 258,000 jobs out of the June and May jobs report. If you factor in the revisions from yesterday, June fell by another 27,000 jobs for a total of 285,000 jobs. This also marks the largest negative 2-month net revision in U.S. history outside of 2020. Furthermore, take a look at the data if you exclude healthcare. Excluding healthcare, the U.S. economy has lost 142,200 jobs over the last 4 months. June 2025 was the first month in 4 years to see a net loss of jobs after 2 consecutive monthly downward revisions. In fact, the U.S. labor market is entirely dependent on healthcare job gains. Look at how many industries have lost jobs in the past 3 months. Businesses and professional services, along with manufacturing, have lost 82,000 jobs in 3 months. This will likely be revised too. And think about it. The Fed's purpose is to reduce unemployment and avoid inflation and deflation. This is the Fed's dual mandate. Since 2021, the Fed has been laser focused on the inflation side of this mandate. Were they able to control inflation? No, they weren't, because we have 3,000% inflation. Does anyone believe that this is under control when the value of the currency has lost 98, 99% of its value? No. Do you really think they have controlled employment? They have. I mean, this is their mandate. They're supposed to keep an eye on employment. How many people are employed? I mean, yes, the government is giving them numbers, but this is their mandate. They should be on top of this. They have all these PhDs. This is what they're there for. They only have to do two things. Yes, they're going to create currency also. But think about it. They haven't done any of these things. So who's to blame for all of this? It's the Federal Reserve. Yes, it's the deep state players. Yes, it's the Biden administration. But who allowed them to do this? It is the Federal Reserve. And once again, this is why Trump continually says that Jerome Powell is too late. Because again, when inflation hit, they said it was transitory. They were too late to do what? React. Now, whatever they did had nothing to do with reducing inflation, because inflation is created by the creation of currency and the currency going into circulation. Them raising the rates, lowering the rates, meaningless. Let me ask you something. If you've built $100,000 or more in investments, do you really want all of it riding on the stock market? Think about it. Banks, billionaires, even entire countries are loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. That's why I want to tell you about Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to own investment-grade gold and silver, the kind the big players are buying. And you can actually hold it in your hand or put it safely in your retirement account. You've worked hard to build your wealth. Isn't it time you protected it? Noble Gold is family-owned, trusted by thousands, and ranked number one in gold IRAs for 4 years in a row. Their precious metal specialists are standing by to answer your questions and walk you through every step. Simple, safe, and easy. Visit X22Gold.com. That is X22Gold.com. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. So right now, with everything that we're seeing, with everything that Trump has done, he's too late in lowering the rates because he's been trying to keep the economy from accelerating and getting better and better and better. So who's now on the chopping block? Who's now in Trump's sights? Well, as always, the Federal Reserve. And Trump has the Federal Reserve exactly where he wants them. Remember, he's pushing to get rid of Cook. He has Moran, who's going to be coming in, and you're going to see that he now has the leverage over the Federal Reserve. Actually, he made sure that no matter what the Fed tries to do, they're trapped in all this because now everyone's seeing the data. Everyone's saying, no, you must lower the rates. Forget the quarter point. You need to go much lower than that. Actually, Trump now is echoing something like 50 to half a point to 1 percentage point. So I do believe that the Fed is going to have to make a huge move here. Now, the question is, will they do this? Because remember, their entire mission is not to help Trump. It's not to help the people of this country. It's actually to destroy the economic system. But at this point in time, everyone is looking at the Fed saying, okay, look, we have the fake data. Trump now is removing Cook. You have no place to go. Now, they could just come out and say, we're not doing it. We're going to do a quarter point right now, and we'll have to see how things go, which I do believe that's probably what they're going to do, because I think they're waiting for something much, much bigger to cover everything that they've been doing. But we'll have to see how that plays out. But Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: if the Fed had followed what we published, they would have raised rates in early 2021. The entire organization is broken. Isn't that interesting? The entire organization is broken. It needs to be fixed. They need to use modern sources of information. We strongly disagree with Ken Griffin. We think incompetence is more important than to defend theoretical independence. He, too late, has done a terrible job since he adopted a two-target. It's too low. It's too rigid. They followed data that's years delayed. They don't believe that money supply matters. It's like the Pope not believing in Jesus. We think that's a much bigger problem than this notion that they are dependent or they're not independent. Jay Hatfield, Infrastructure Capital Advisor, CEO and CIO on Maria Bartiromo. Chair Powell was late to raise rates. They need to come down here. There's no question about it. He's dragging his feet. The Fed's going to come down here 50 to 75, maybe 100. And yes, this is exactly what Trump and the Patriots want them to do. They have set it up in such a way that they're putting so much pressure on the Fed that forget the quarter point. You need to come down much, much more than this because look, all the job numbers are fake. Jobs were not created. And this fits into your model, doesn't it? with unemployment. Now, again, the Fed now is in a tight position because Trump now is focusing on the Fed. The fake news now, they are reporting this because what else do they do? The numbers are coming out. And the Fed now is kind of trapped in all of this. And all the financial firms, everyone's looking at this going, okay, this is a complete and utter disaster. So what is the Fed going to do? Now, I have a very funny feeling that if they do come down 50, 75, or 100, and the economy starts to take off, Trump is right. Trump is right that this is all they had to do. And now the economy's taking off. If they don't come down by that amount, and they only come down a quarter point, everyone's going to look and say, okay, you're now basically destroying the economy. Trump is right again. You don't care about the American people. You really don't care about the economy. And you're actually doing this on purpose because all signs point to you really need to drop the rates. You dropped it during the Biden administration, and there was no reason to drop it the way you did. And all that was fake information. So I do believe Trump has the Fed, the deep state players exactly where he wants them, and he has the people on his side. And what people are learning right now is that the entire economy under Biden was one gigantic illusion. And the only reason people still felt okay is because they were pumping money into the system. But everyday people on the street, they knew there were problems. They knew that there was massive inflation. They knew the energy costs were very, very high. They knew there were no jobs. And what happened as Biden left office and Trump came in, Trump inherited all this and the recession continued. And the Fed allowed it to continue. And it got worse and worse and worse. Remember, Trump didn't cause the recession. He received the recession from Biden, and the Fed wanted it to go into a deep recession, maybe even a depression. And Trump, he created the parallel economic system to counter this. And he knew as he brought in more and more currency via the tariffs, he lowered the energy costs, he'd be able to pull us out of the recession that they have created. All he needed from the Fed was them to lower the rates. And I do believe this is why Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says in the fourth quarter, we're going to see the economy really start to pick up because the Fed is going to be forced into lowering the rates. Once they lower the rates, it's going to affect the automobile industry, which is going to affect the rubber, tire, you name it, all those industries that have to do with the automobile industry. They're all of a sudden going to pick up. Same thing with the housing industry, lumber, windows, piping, electrical work, tar, you name it, all the industries that have to do with housing. That is going to pick up because those people that are constructing new homes, all of a sudden you're going to see a resurgence in this. Those people that are selling their existing homes, that's going to start to take off. And this is going to go into many different industries. And this is why Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is saying, yes, we're going to start to move in the fourth quarter of this year because, once the Fed lowers the rates, depending on what they do, yes, we will see a pickup in the fourth quarter. Is it going to be dramatic? Well, it all depends on how much they lower the rates. Now, if they only lowered a quarter point, I do believe they're just trying to hold out as long as they possibly can, saying, listen, we lowered the rates, see, we lowered a quarter point or maybe even a half a percentage, but we're going to wait until the next meeting. And I think they're going to try to drag this out because they are waiting for that event. But what's going to happen, no matter what, yes, the economy will start to get better, probably not at the speed that Trump would like, but people are going to see it. The people are going to experience it. And this is going to be a major, major problem for the deep state players because people are going to go, holy crap, everything that Trump did, everything that he said, it's working. If the Fed would just lower the rates even further, the economy would really start to move a lot quicker. And in 2026, the economy would be absolutely roaring. Now, think about it. When Trump gets the Fed to lower the rates where he wants them and the economy is roaring in 2026, how is the Fed, the deep state players, the fake news going to come back from this? What are they going to say? They want a economy that's doing worse? Because every day that passes, the economy is going to get better and better and better. There's going to be more and more and more jobs. Inflation is going to be held steady. It doesn't mean inflation is going to go away. You'll feel like inflation's a lot better because energy costs will come way down. If energy costs come way down, what happens? The manufacturing, the delivery, of these items goes way down. Travel will become a little bit less expensive because what will happen? The fuel costs will go down. So you're going to see plane tickets go down, train tickets go down, electricity costs will go down. So Trump will continually build on the economy, and the economy will get stronger and stronger and stronger. People will experience this. And this is going to put the deep state players, the Fed, in a very, very tough position. So if the Fed or the deep state players or them together, if they're preparing to do something, they're going to have to do it before the midterms because they're going to have to shift everything if they can, and they're going to have to shift it in a way that where they could blame it on Trump. But this is going to be very, very difficult because it depends on how long they go in allowing Trump to accelerate the economic system. Because if they wait until, let's say, September, October, the economy is going to be so good that people aren't going to buy what they're selling. But we'll have to see how this all plays out in the end. But I do believe in the end, Trump is going to use this against the Fed. He's going to say we need, just like he said before, we need to fix it. Percent says we like to review the Fed. So in the end, you can see they're building the narrative to do what? To audit the Fed, to investigate the Fed. And actually, I think once they investigate the Fed, I think it's going to be game over for the Fed and the deep state players. And this is when Trump is going to make the move. And I do believe once he has the House and the Senate and he has the power of both houses, I do believe he's going to make the move to go back to the Constitution, remove the Federal Reserve Act, remove or modify the 16th Amendment. And I do believe we're going to be moving in a completely and utterly direction in regards to currency. And I do believe we're going to be going back to the Constitution, going back to sound money, and we're going to see gold, silver, Bitcoin, all of it's going to really break out because when people start to understand and learn that we've been lied to this entire time and the fiat currency has lost a tremendous amount of value, people are going to want to put their fiat currency in an alternative currency, which is actually going to be the currency of the United States, where it doesn't lose value. So you're going to see a major, major shift. And eventually what's going to happen as people shift into the new currency system, the Fed is just going to be left there with their pieces of paper, and no one's going to use it to transact business, which means we don't need the Fed, which means it could be restructured right into the Treasury, which means we, the people, take control over the entire economic system once again. And I do believe this is where all of this is moving. And like we said before, I do believe Bitcoin will play a major role in all of this, especially internationally, because we're going to see a lot of countries start to shift, yes, back into gold. And I don't mean everyone's going to be carrying gold. They're going to go back to the gold standard for their national currencies. But I do believe they're also going to use some type of cryptocurrency, maybe like Bitcoin, to actually transact business across the globe. And what's very interesting, and Bitcoin Magazine put this out, Vietnam approves a 5-year pilot program to allow crypto trading platforms. Asia is getting prepared. And we're going to see a lot more countries. They're going to start to get prepared, just like the United States is getting prepared. And this is why Trump has pushed cryptocurrencies very hard. And I do believe eventually, as time goes on, you're going to see Trump mention gold. And all of a sudden, people are going to start to realize, wait a minute, are we moving back to the gold standard? Are we moving back to the Constitution? Are we moving back to what our founding fathers wanted? I do believe the question to that is absolutely yes. And think about it. Gold now is at $3,600 plus. I do believe when all the manipulation has ended, you're going to see gold move up to $15,000, $20,000 an ounce. Now, of course, this is when it's pegged to the Federal Reserve note. It's not the US dollar, it's the Federal Reserve note. Remember, the Federal Reserve note is losing value every single day, which means if it does, which I do believe it will, goes up to $15,000 to $20,000 an ounce, that means it takes 20,000 of those Federal Reserve note pieces of paper to buy 1 ounce of gold. If you go back in time to the 30s, it took 35 pieces of paper to purchase the same ounce of gold. The ounce of gold did not change. It was the value of the currency that has changed. And I do believe we're going to see this happen, and you're going to see the buying power of the American people come back. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.